FTA, ASHTO, and I believe a road diet works, but still, at that curve, I would rather have that lane go up and eliminate those planters. It is sort of it's a trade-off between making it look prettier for the folks that live there that are probably expecting the planters to come,
And that is the area that we're looking at and concentrating the most on. So if you see some that have been removed, it will be in that area.
Does DOT have to approve that on a case-by-case basis so far as allowing the temporary use of the sidewalk?
The way I was reading OCGA is so long as proper signage is there, but I mean, I'm assuming.
Because you got state highway factors involved in this too.
Correct. And with it being DOT approved, it's just sort of like the trade-off of like, I know this project's already delayed due to weather and stuff like that, so that's not the critique, but if 1 more week or 3 days or 2 days or however long point person at DOT that you could ask regarding that sort of corridor idea, maybe submit my drawing as an example, I think that gets to the overarching desire. Larry had a much larger vision of the 3 things, but I think to me that's an adequate compromise that still allows a road diet, still allows people to slow down, but pushes the bike onto the sidewalk for that. I call it the macaroni side. So.
We actually are using share the road at the intersection.
Sure.
Because that's a little more difficult. We cannot put the bike lanes in there. I'll have to ask about the sidewalk. That is the area that we are trying to remove. And this may go back to the police chief too. I'm not sure what the ruling is. I know certain age you can't be on the sidewalk with a bike. And we can ask to see design-wise if that's something. But I think we have to keep the lane all the way through that area. I don't know that it can change and hop on the sidewalk, but I can ask.
If you can ask, that would be great. Thanks. I mean, but would that also allow for in that case, you could keep constructing at the current pace and just, if it is allowed, but I guess with the caveat being, if you would continue constructing, it would be without planters. So it's probably either easier just to have a cease for a 3-day period, and maybe that could tie into our conversations with the contractor as it relates to.
Well, with GDOT, 3 days.
Yeah.
But what we can do is that striping and all that comes at the end of the project anyway, when we have to overlay the streets. So all the markings you see out there now are not accurate. All that's going to be changed. So that's going to come towards the end of the project. We should have enough time to get an answer from DOT.
And pardon me, but I had received that email during my work period, and I didn't get to see pretty much everything. Oh, thanks.
Yes, that came in this afternoon, and that's some of the areas that we're looking to remove the planters or shorten them where we can. But I'm sure by the end of the project, we can have an answer to whether or not we can move the path onto the sidewalk.
But does that include a removal of planters at that corner?
Well, we're already going to do that, whether we get clearance from GDOT or not. The whole point of Mr. Martin's request was to remove as many as we could. We can't remove them all. We're going to have to keep some because some of them house lights and things like that. But the ones that we can, we have dramatically reduced it. If you can see on there, it shows all the ones that are to be removed.
Okay.
Lee, again, thanks for listening to this, our citizens and making adjustments accordingly. I think you've done a fantastic job doing that. I think that this is twofold, actually. I think that we owe it to our citizens to listen to them, but we also owe it to the businesses and places that's also in the area too that we've gotten easements from, that we've told them this project is coming for the beautification of that area. So I just can't support just totally focusing in one perspective versus looking at it all from an entirety, to be honest with you. So I don't think that we need to halt this project. I think that we've made concessions throughout by removing and even reducing planter sizes. And I've met with Mr. Martin as well, and he and I have talked about it as well. And one of the compromises that he said that would work was that if we reduce the planter sizes, and I think that you've done that, and that we're doing that. But I do think that we do owe it to the businesses there too, to make sure that we adhere to what we told them what we were going to do, but putting safety first, nevertheless.
And the ones that we have removed, if you'll notice they're in areas where the telephone poles, which makes it tight for accessibility. It still meets ADA, but it is tighter with those poles. So we're trying to balance keeping the look the same. If we removed all the planters on that side, you'd have one side of the street with planters, it'd be unbalanced. It wouldn't look real nice. So we're trying to balance that if it's clutter and if it's something that could, you know, it can be removed, we can remove it if we can. So that's our first swipe at it this afternoon. And we think that will help the situation. And if we do find out from GDOT that we can use the sidewalk, then most of those will be already removed in that area. So,
Mike, you got any questions or comments?
I think my fellow council members have covered any other concerns that I have.
Chloe?
Yeah, I'm honestly, just this is my personal opinion, I'm kind of ambivalent towards it because I think they look nice if they went away. It is a little cluttered. I'm not directionally savvy going towards Cleveland. It seems a little cluttered. So I think it won't be as tight like you said. I also, just out of curiosity, this is the type of person I am, went out and measured some bike paths in West Atlanta, Adair Park, and downtown. They've recently put a lot
Yeah, they really have.
around Georgia State. It's not atypical to have an 11-foot lane with a 4-foot bike path lane. That was pretty much, with the exception on Murphy Avenue, there is a striped divider between the lane for traffic and the bike lane, but around curves and things it tapers off. And then I think in a certain portion it transitions to shared road, then transitions back to a bike path. So I think a lot of people are kind of jarred because it does look very different. But I don't think that it's atypical. I think the barricades make it look narrower than it actually is. And once the construction is gone, it won't look as tight. Because again, going towards Cleveland, on the side of Family Dollar, it doesn't seem nearly as tight as the opposite side where there's still those barricades there. And so it looks very different, but I don't think it's out of the norm to the point of being unsafe, especially with those planters being removed.
You say, Clayton, you mean North Avenue? No.
No, headed towards north.
Oh, going north. Oh, I got you. Okay.
I'll reinforce it in council comments as well, but one of the questions I sort of brought up via email too is just having a policy in place where, I think Mr. Martin had a very flavorful term for it, but it was basically just allowing DRC to act as a pass-through, even if it's for city projects, to get a final citizen thumbs up or asking for a revisit when it relates to a city project. I know Planning Commission was afforded the same review as it results to some of the policies that didn't previously have to come to Planning Commission as well. So I'm not sure if that's necessarily a policy amendment that has to be made within our code that would allow a further committed citizen review. But I think it would be worthy to have something similar to that. So.
Well, with all due respect, and Larry and I talked quite a bit about this project as well. There was ample citizen input.
Yep.
Problem is these projects take so damn long to move from concept to construction that people forget, they don't remember that we had the meetings, and you know, it's hard to look back in a rearview mirror 4 or 5 years ago when we were having all these meetings, discussing all this stuff. The citizen input is there. I'm not opposed to discussing an enhanced layer of that
Sure.
if that would help facilitate smoother projects in the future, so.
Plus, I think things look real different, like I'm looking at this, I have no idea what this is. But if I see it, like when I went with Larry and I walked, it looks a lot different, so I imagine lots of people are that way. This looks great on paper, but it looks very different. And they feel like maybe they weren't listened to, but that's actually what you said. It's just in reality, it's a little bit not what you imagined, so.
Not everybody operates well off of that piece of paper.
Some people do really well, so.
All right, so any comments on the Dogwood Drive project? Okay.
Larry. Get your microphone, Larry.
Yeah, I was a little bit unclear as to what your proposal was for the curve area. Were you saying that in the curve area, that the road itself would be wider around the curve? I really,
No, sir, I'm saying that you maintain, I mean, in a sense, if it was allowed to, and if we found out by the paving stage, that we could, I guess, widen it right there. I just would like to have some type of demarcation, like every 1 foot striped line with little 2-inch tall bollards to keep people from continuing on that as a bike lane. If said bike lane could be steered into the sidewalk as a multi-use path that would be about 250 feet before it would come back out near Ochoa or near Arches.
are we gonna be able to gain any road width of any of this? That's my bottom line, because here's my concern really, and this should be taken seriously from this point going forward in all of these meetings that are gonna consider these. And that is, whenever people are told that the concept, part of the concept is slowing down the traffic, well, the other side is, it probably is, you know, some of it's going to be slowed down, but has the whole thing been overlooked of when the traffic may be moving slower, but you're moving pedestrians 4 feet closer to the traffic. The oncoming traffic to itself has much less room to maneuver to avoid an accident. And then the third factor is the bicyclists, they're crammed into the narrow road. These three factors, I think, were really overlooked just in the quest to satisfy calming the speeds. And I don't think we can continue to overlook these three factors. They're very important. Because, like I said, people are going to get hurt when you start narrowing the road and expecting these three safety issues to not even exist. They do. And I ask that y'all give this some serious thought as to really what you can do to temporarily hold the program and put in a plan. There's several different ways to do this. One of the ways is one of the compromises of the lease that I like would be just to gain 2 feet of the road back. Just gain 2 feet of the road back, so your sidewalk width is a total of 8 feet instead of 10 feet. The planters would be 2 feet wide. In that scenario, the traffic has got 2 feet wider to maneuver. The pedestrians are 2 feet further away from the traffic, at least 2 feet, and probably more, because they're going to be using the whole sidewalk. And the bicyclists still gained at least 2 feet of riding space, and that 2 feet can still be used if a motorist has to, in an emergency situation, make a move to avoid an accident. So I don't think you can ever get around the aspect of the rationale to not consider widening the road somewhat. And I don't think a 2 foot widening when you're thinking of already taking 4 feet away, get 2 feet of it back under this scenario. You You still retain planters 2 feet wide, the sidewalk is still 6 feet wide.
The road width's not changing, it's staying the same, it's 30 right now. White line to white line's 30. It's gonna stay 30. The only thing that's changing is the striping on the road to accommodate the bicycle lanes. And that's 4 feet, and that's standard, we can't make those any less.
I don't understand why you're saying the road width is not changing, because earlier you said narrowing the roads that makes people go
He's
slow.
talking about with the bicycle lanes.
With the bicycle lanes, the painting on the road. I can't
I-
widen the road because of the telephone poles. If you go out there now, you've got telephone poles sitting right on white lines. So I couldn't widen the road, take away all the bicycle stuff. I couldn't widen it without taking out 10 or 12 poles.
I believe, Larry, we've heard your concerns, and I think we've adjusted the project in a fair way to accommodate most of the concerns that you raised. I think it's a fair compromise. That's my perspective.
I mean, and if it can be pushed onto the sidewalk where that section that I'm talking about, possibly to continue that compromise is at that curve, possibly making what would have then been a 4-foot bike lane, instead of making a 4-foot lane with stripes, make that into a 2-foot lane with stripes. So for that corner, you regain a little bit of extra driving
Yes, I didn't
space.
know if this council's desire for Lee to pursue that, or in other words, I'm asking, is anyone in concert with Travis on that suggestion?
I thought he'd already answered us on that, that he was gonna
They're
go.
gonna go back.
I will go back and ask, if this design has already been approved by GDOT. It probably would be better to finish the project as designed, then go back and try to adjust the bicycle lanes with the sidewalks, because it's been through the design process. It's been approved by GDOT.
As designed, but without planters on that curve.
Right,
Okay.
we're removing some of the planters and shorten them up where we can. So in case,
So if that is allowed, then you could go back and repaint over the white line and bring it in.
possibly. But at the end of the day, still, you could have enough room, it meets ADA on the sidewalks. Currently, right now, it's more dangerous for pedestrians on the sidewalk because there is no raised sidewalk. It is a sea of asphalt and a broken up sidewalk. So you have a sea of aprons, if someone's driving, they can turn in at any time and hit a pedestrian because they don't know whether that's a sidewalk or an
Sure.
apron. It gives a false sense of security to someone who's walking as a pedestrian. So it actually is unsafe now.
Can the question be asked in tandem with the project continuing?
Oh, of course.
Or, I mean, should that be put in the form of a motion or?
Just a consensus on that situation. I'm good with that.
But you get where I'm going. Right.
So, I'm sorry, it's.
You would continue to construct the project as is.
That-
You would remove said planters from the curve.
From the curb
That
or
or show.
more than the curb.
Yeah. Mr. Summeth asked the Department of Transportation the question, while we are continuing to construct the project as is with the bike lanes as is, so we don't have to go back to a new design process, and if approved, to allow that bike lane to be on the sidewalk as a multi-use path for about 250 feet from the travel agency to Arches area, then we could go back, repaint over the lines, add some extra road width in your definition of what you're saying is road, which is the car travel area, and have the bicyclists in a protected, closer to the wall area on the curve. I think it's a copy.
Okay, but do you not think that the whole length from Dogwood to North Avenue requires the same thought to ensure the safety in these 3 issues?
I've read your 3 issues and doing the same as Chloe. I went on Cortland, I went on Ponce, I went on North Avenue, I went through Georgia Tech. I think where it's a straightaway, no. Where it's a curve, it deserves the full attention that you're giving it. I agree with you on the curve, and that's where I thought I agreed with you on the phone last week and in person as
One
well.
last thing, I don't know if y'all are aware of the actual distance from the new curve the road center line in front of the shoe shop. Right now, we've only got less than 8 feet. That's 8 feet of road width.
You're talking about while construction's underway? Is that what you mean?
From the new sidewalk curve to the yellow marking of the road center line, in front of the shoe shop, the shoe repair shop across from the quick.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's only 92 inches from the curve to the yellow line. It's ridiculously narrow.
But isn't that going to be repainted?
Not finished.
Yeah, there's no curve there now.
Yes, there is. It's a finished curve right in front of the shoe shop area.
But it's
I
not,
measured it.
it doesn't meet standards because it's not raised, it's basically an apron slash.
This was the new finished product that I measured to, and Chloe was with
They're
me.
not down to that.
No, they're not down that far. We went down.
What he's referring to as shoe shop is the shoe shop across the street from the old Quick Pick.
Oh.
Yeah. That's what he's talking
That's,
about.
I had the same confusion when he said shoe shop earlier too, so.
That area has only got a 92 inch.
When you measure it for the lines that are out there now, those lines are going away, so that measurement's not accurate. Those lines are gonna be gone. That road has to be paved.
So do we lose the turn lane for that intersection?
You do not lose the turn lane. Currently, right now, in Dogwood, if you go to Dogwood North Central, you have 10-foot turn lanes. It has to be pitched down to get all those lanes in there. So you already have that, but no turn lanes are going away.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Larry.
Any other comments on Dogwood? City manager report. Tim? Oh, I'm sorry, before we get into that, I need a motion to amend the agenda for approval on the Depot Museum and Visitor signs. We'll go ahead and take care of that tonight. So does anybody correct make a motion to amend the agenda so we can take action on that item?
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion. All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign, motion carries. What do y'all think?
Option one.
Option one.
Option one.
Option one.
Let's make it a tie, so quick air.
Option one.
This is the color right here.
So, quick question.
Gonna be great.
It- It's gonna be green, right? Is this just the color of the way that this looks, this saturation?
That's a poor green, the actual green is
I was
much
gonna
better.
say, no one might know green. So it's gonna be green. Not great.
Lingron copper.
That's the one you chose.
Option one, green. Someone make a motion to that effect.
Motion to choose option one, green.
Option one, green. Is there a second?
Second. Those are-
Discussion. All in favor of the motion?
I like green.
All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Option one wins today. Tim Young?
Nothing to report today, sir.
All right, this time I'll open the floor for public comments. It could be a question or comment about anything. Now I'll start on my left.
Just one. Silent
The
Cross,
microphone.
The microphone, George.
Go to the microphone. Thank you.
A little inconsistent on that road.
is this on?
Yes, it's on.
Silent Crossing, are they dead or alive? Is my question.
Silent crossings are,
Dead or alive?
they're alive.
Are they?
Transportation funding is the meeting that I attended Sunday. We were talking about taxes. The sales tax numbers are down. And sales tax numbers are down primarily because we can't collect sales tax on items sold online. So all of us that are shopping for the convenience of having Amazon bring our stuff to our front door, we're hurting our tax rate. Well, Amazon collects sales tax, but other online sellers,
So we might have silent.
they're alive. To the best of my knowledge, they haven't been changed.
I believe we did instruct staff to bring, just for discussion, I'm not saying I want to entertain it, but for discussion at the first February meeting, the possibility, and we mentioned this 2 weeks ago, the possibility to understand the legality of if you wanted to change it, can you? It's just a question and inquiry that's occurred from a citizen, so I thought I would entertain that question as such.
The railroad is actually already doing diagnostic evaluations of our current crossings.
I'm not saying I agree with it.
It's
Silent
voted on
crossings.
and that train's moving, so.
Okay.
No pun intended.
Any other comments on the left? On my right? I got one. John?
3280 East 10th Street. Just to let you guys know, if the Economy Club has 300 people at one time, I'm sure, you're looking at 300,000 people a year coming to Batesville. It will be the largest attraction except for Chick-fil-A in the entire downtown. And y'all should know that that's a big draw for the city. That's my comment.
Thanks, sir. Question? Officer Cushing raised his hand for you.
Oh, you have all of that.
Stephen Cushing, 3393 Old Jonesboro Road. I noticed that there's some barricades up on International Drive. That looks like we're going to do a one-way street again, cutting off Virginia Avenue or something, or cutting off Virginia Park from like Delta Credit Union or something. And if we're going to do that, I'm just saying, I'm against it. I'm a citizen, I drive through that way, I won't say daily, but at least every other day, because I go to the bank, I go to the gym, I go, shop in that area, and that's the route that I go to go that way. So I don't know if you've only heard, I don't want people coming through my neighborhood, but I live in the neighborhood, and I want to go that way when I drive through the neighborhood.
One second, thank you. That's there are ongoing discussions about traffic control. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Hazard days. Thank you, Heather. No, we don't.
I just want to say we had a destination wedding this past weekend at Hateville First Baptist Church, and we did have over 800 people come from all over the world. And I wanted to thank the police department for being there for us, for going up and down the street, going through our parking lot. It was an international wedding. There were people from everywhere, and it went off without a hitch. We didn't have one solid problem. And we might want to look at that as a city, because we obviously have a sanctuary that will hold 1,000 people. And they didn't even have all of the attendees show up. They did a live broadcast as well up in the balcony. They absolutely loved the sanctuary. They loved the city. They were here all week long and used the hotels and they went to the museum. They went downtown. So there's a whole lot we can do. And I tried to work with Cookie as well, but there is a lot going on. So I think in the future, I told them that in the next 5 years as they come and go, because they're definitely going to be coming back. These were millennials. They were just thrilled and so excited that they could fly here and stay and the things that they could do here. But I just wanted to announce that. And I definitely wanted to thank the police department, because the chief, as ill as he was, Thursday and Friday was very helpful.
Thank you.
Please tell them for me.
Thank you.
Appreciate your work coordinating that.
Yeah,
Thanks.
That was good. That was good. That was great.
Melvin Rick, 539 Oak Drive. I want to see if we could revisit 5-year putting a stop sign on Oak Drive and Oak Name. Rick checked in a few years back. Citizens are going to build 3 houses there and they're fixing to build 4 houses. And they keep flying up over that hill. You can't see them for their own.
Okay, North Fulton?
Yeah. Like at every intersection on Oak Avenue, there's a red light or a stop sign.
Okay.
It's been cut through for years. As a child, me and my buddy almost got one of those 100 times.
Okay, we'll have to check into it. Take some minutes, would you pass that along to the chief? Thanks, sir. Thanks, sir. All right, any other comments on the right? Council comments, we'll start with you tonight, Chloe.
No, I was just thinking of what Heather said. I think as someone who every other month someone I know is getting married, I think you're onto something. People travel to places they've never been just because they can find a sanctuary or a reception area that holds a lot of people for a reasonable price. That would be great.
I think that's what attracted them here was proximity to the airport. That
Yes.
so many people were coming in from out of town.
Yes.
Largest Baptist church closest to here.
Wow.
Well, not Baptist, but they just.
Protestant, I think. There was a connection.
Yes.
They were
They're
missionaries.
gonna hold all their people, yeah.
Right.
All missionaries.
I consider that if I ever get married again.
Look out.
Fly men from all over the world.
We'll take good care of you.
All of the rest.
I would only add that the sanctuary can accommodate 1,000, but you better plan your reception somewhere else. That's it.
No, I don't have anything.
Heather Glantz had brought up a issue during the campaign regarding the need for a look into getting a new rec department van. I see you nodding your head like it seems like it's a necessity. I implore staff, if it's possible, to look into getting on the GSA schedule, register for surplus vehicles. They're constantly doing bids on stuff like govdeals.com, and some of these vans that are being resold have less than 60,000 miles on them, and they're 2014 models. They might be in New Jersey, but they sell for $2,500 to $3,000, and they're in perfect running condition. So if you offset the spend that we're currently spending for rentals, I think it'll pay for itself in under a month. So,
I didn't think you were gonna donate one.
I'll think about it. Mr. John Staley, my neighbor, had brought up an excellent idea with regards to sort of making an addendum to maintenance schedules after a resident, Scott Allen, took a lovely drone video. It sort of showed some patchwork on top of the city hall and fire department. So I was sent an email about that. So sometime in the next week or so, if you have an update on that, that would be great. I don't have to bring up the thing about having a called meeting next Tuesday, since that was a resolution. I believe on February 2nd, 2018, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, that there is a fire department get-together for not just HFD, but other fire departments.
Recognition, firefighter recognition. We actually have some fire inspectors that will be sworn in.
Right.
This is the event at the legislature?
Yes. And I think there's a luncheon as well. I can't make it.
That's the same day as council.
It's during the day.
Beg your pardon?
It's during daytime hours.
I know, I saw the time, but the dinner would conflict with our council.
There's a lunch too.
Oh.
I can't make it, but I was just figuring. If,
You're the only one that got the email.
If another staff member can make it, that's why I forwarded it along. I'm just bringing it up again.
Firefighter Burn Foundation is supplying lunch that day.
All right. And sorry, I write these down during the week, so this will probably become regular routine for me, just to state these here and then. I noticed that we didn't have any civic organization or city-sponsored MLK event. So